Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Eric with SweetSpotDFS, and this is my DFS review for the 2022 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. We'll be doing a tournament recap, comparing the $5 GPP winning lineup versus the optimal, and then breaking down the sweet spot process to see if we could either build the optimal lineup with all the pieces we learned in the preview and strategy video, or a lineup that would have won a GPP. So let's go ahead and get into this thing. Let's not waste any time. I'm gonna make this as short as possible. I would usually like to start with giveaways, and one of the giveaways being the subscriber giveaway, where if we reach a goal of 285 subscribers, we would run this. Someone would win $10. Unfortunately, we didn't get there. We're at 284, one away. As much as I'd love to run this, I'm just going to keep it. This was our goal. I'm not going to try to be soft with any of my goal expectations or anything like that. So, you know, more likely next week we're going to hit this and we'll run this giveaway. So everybody who entered into the giveaway this week, I'll push those to next week so you guys can have more opportunities at winning $10. And if you haven't yet, all you gotta do is be subscribed to the channel and comment on any of my videos. You get a free entry per video you comment on, and you get an additional one if you share any of those videos on Twitter. So just a reminder. And then the prize picks giveaway that I typically do, I have yet to see a report from Prize Picks, so I'm going to look into that. Reach out to me if you've signed up within the last 2 months. I'll just kind of take your word for it. Actually, I'll investigate. I'm not going to take anyone's word for it just yet. I will make sure I get a list of people who have signed up using the promo code SweetSpot and at least put $20 in their account. So bear with me on that. If once I get a list and I see a bunch of people signed up, you all will get $20 one way or the other. Where I'm not gonna run a giveaway for it. I'm just gonna give you guys a 20 just because of how ridiculous this has been recently. So just throwing that out there. Again, the easy way to sign up is just using the link in the description below. Get you to the sign up page, and then just put $20 in your account and you get a chance to win $20 back. Okay. Tournament recap. Let's go ahead. Let's get it on the screen. Tom Hoge is your winner, 19 under. I didn't really get to watch much of this during the weekend. So Saturday, Sunday, I was busy. I did get to listen on PGA Tour Radio Sunday while this tournament was concluding. So I know Tom Hoge made some clutch birdies at the end of the round. Jordan Spieth hit a okay drive on hole 18. If you remember, hole 18 is a par 5 at Pebble Beach. He needed to make eagle to tie Tom Hoge. He ended up making par, so he didn't get close. Beau Hossler, by the way, he had a chance. Well, he had a really good drive on 18. He also needed to eagle in order to get into a playoff with Tom Hoge. Put it in the bunker, like that front side bunker. Didn't make the chip, and then he 3-putted for a bogey. He could have been tied for second. I know he screwed me out of some money with that one bogey at the end. I could have easily made $25 more had he made that putt. So I'm a little bitter towards Mr. Beau Hossler. I can't believe, you know, a guy who'd been clutch with his putting all, you know, the entire round just buckles, you know, on the last hole. Those putts for him didn't really matter, but having a either solo second or even a tie for second is better than a third. So it screwed him one way or the other. The rest of the guys, I mean, Patrick Cantlay, we'll get into the bucket system. I forecasted, or I projected, I should say, 2 10K golfer or 1 10K golfer for sure, and a chance for a second 10K to finish inside the top 10. So the fact that Cantlay and Spieth, who were 10K plus, finishing inside the top 10, that was, you know, that was a win this week with the sweet spot process. Matthew Fitzpatrick kind of came out of nowhere. He had some really, I think he had a rough first round, and then actually just played decent from there on going forward. And I'm not going to talk about the rest of the guys. Seamus Power was one of those guys that was really popular coming into this thing. A lot of people after round 1 were basically championing him, you know, thinking he was going to cash their outright tickets and stuff like that. It's always fun seeing that stuff on Twitter and just seeing how wrong it goes every single week. That's cool. You're on Seamus. He did finish 9th, which was great. But he also blew a huge lead, and he shot over par at the easiest golf course, which in a way to me is a little bit, I don't know. I mean, you can only make so many birdies. I don't think it's sustainable to just have 4 rounds of golf where you're making 6+ birdies. Like, it's just, there's going to be some regression. So the fact that he did it at the easiest course, you could look at it like he choked. You could look at it like, you know, he was going to, I guess, regress back to the mean. One way or the other, he didn't get it. He didn't get it done. 9th place finish isn't terrible, but he did, you know, he was 6 shots away from first place when he had a 4-shot lead, I think, after round 2. So a little disappointing for Mr. Seamus Power. And that's kind of your recap. Like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of it Saturday, Sunday, so I'm not going to bore you with things that I don't know much about. Let's go ahead. Let's get in to the comparison of the $5 GPP winning lineup and the optimal lineup. Let me hide some of these columns to make it a little easier for you guys to see. The $5 GPP winning lineup scored 656.5 points. It used up $50,000 of the salary, and it consisted of Tom Hoge, Troy Merritt, Matt Fitzpatrick, Joel Damon, Seamus Power, and Denny McCarthy. No use of a 10K golfer, if you notice. It was 2 9K golfers, 2 8K golfers, and 2 7K golfers. Whereas the optimal lineup scored 689 points, used up 49,400 of the salary, and it was Tom Hoge 8,000, Jordan Spieth 10,000, Bo Hosler 6,700, Troy Merritt at 7,200, Fitzpatrick at 92, Joel Damon at 7,500. So it's your classic build, your traditional build, 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 6. So again, just counting by salaries. That is your most traditional build. And once I do create the salary video that I've been kind of teasing for a while, you're going to see that lineup structure for salaries shows up more often than not in both the optimal lineup as well as a GPP winning lineup. So there's something to, I mean, I went like 10, 9, 7, 7, 7, 7 on a lot of my lineups, or I went 10, 9, 7, 7, 7, and then whatever, you know, whether it was an 8K or a 6K, depending on what 7K golfers I used. But yeah, you always got to remember that's a really good lineup structure to build with, and just trying to find that random 6K golfer that's going to show up is a big deal. Now, the difference between these two lineups, 656 versus 689, was 33 points. That's not terrible. From here, where I want to go to is kind of like seeing if we could build a lineup with the SweetSpot process, but we also still have to go through a few things before we get there. So the very first thing I want to talk about is the ranking that I had for the SweetSpot rank. So let me go ahead. Let's sort it from top to bottom. This doesn't look so great when it comes to the ranking. So there's something that I'm going to have to do in my rankings to try to get this to look a little bit better going forward. Because as I see it, I mean, yeah, we have a 2nd place, a 4th place, and a 6th place. That's really great. And we have 2 optimal lineup golfers, or 2 golfers in the optimal lineup, which is also really good. But there are so many missed cuts that are here that this looks really bad, if I'm being honest. I want to see 4 golfers inside the top 20, which the top 20 comes down to comes down to Matt Jones. We only have 2 golfers in the optimal lineup. We scroll a little bit further down, inside the top 27, we do have 4, and inside the top 31, we have 5. So that's actually really good when it comes to the SweetSpot score. Sure, we're going to have missed cuts here and there. I don't know how we can boost some of these guys to go up a little bit, but I guess that's not terrible. You know, I'm not going to complain too much about that. So that's one item of the SweetSpot process. Another one would be looking at Marquee Tea Time pairings, which uses the SweetSpot rankings to try to figure out which are the best groups to try to select golfers from. So what I ended up doing was coming up with some arbitrary number that I wanted the collective or the cumulative rank for the two golfers, since that's how they were paired up this week, to be under, and then they would be highlighted this green color. And it looks like there was a, yeah, okay, so there was a withdrawal that happened. I mean, Daniel Berger withdrew, so hopefully you guys pay attention to that. And there was another 10K golfer that also withdrew that I can't even remember off the top of my head. But it was crazy. So Tom Hoagie was a part of that lineup, I think, with Daniel Berger. I think that's who it was that ended up withdrawing. But he was a part of the original Marquee Tea Time. Either way, we have our two golfers from the Marquee Tea Time in the optimal lineup. And when you look at this, we have some really good finishes. The Ryan Palmer, Charles Schwartzel pairing, not so great. Neither was the Justin Rose, Cameron Champ one. But the rest of them look pretty good. Like, you got Keith Mitchell in the 12th place finish, Jordan Spieth, Lonto Griffin, Nick Taylor, Jason Day. Those are all good lineup, or they are good finishes in those Marquee Tea Time pairings. Now, the other one I did was like a notable mention. There are far more golfers in these groups, but it looks like I have Fitzpatrick and Troy Merritt in those. And I really don't know how to make, I don't want to go throughout all of these golfers. It's just one of those things that, it's good to see to some extent, but it's also, it's busy. There's too many golfers to talk about. And that's kind of where my mind is at, is that we just have too many to talk about. It's not really worth diving into. These were all just golfers or pairings that I was interested in. So by and large, it looks good. But then also we do have some groups here that just have missed cuts all over the place. So I'm just going to, I don't know. I'm going to leave it at that. So from here, what I want to do is look at the SweetSpot process, looking at the buckets. And what I can tell you right now is if you look at all these red colors, that means that's when the bucket didn't hit. All the green colors are when the bucket hit. And as you count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buckets. Or let me do it a different way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buckets that did not hit this week out of 36. So 31 out of 36, that's pretty good. Can't think of what the math is off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure it's at least in the high 80%, if not still in the 90%. Well, you times it by 3, right? That gets you pretty close. Let me just do the math on my phone really quick. I'm curious to know, and I'm sorry I didn't do this beforehand, but this shouldn't be too fast or too long. 31 divided by 36, 86%. So the buckets were 86% this week. That's not terrible. We usually see it somewhere in the 90 percentile. So it's a little frustrating that it didn't work out. And again, we're looking at the top 10 finishes. That's what the bucket system tries to do, is try to project all the golfers that are going to be inside the top 10 based off of their buckets. So here is your top 10 right here. And it's basically looking at this whole section here. How many of these, finished inside the top 10 from each bucket, whether it's strokes gained stats, course history, recent form, last year, last week. And then it shows up here. So what I want to do is see if we can build a lineup using the bucket system criteria. So these projections here. Now, if you followed me in the review video last week, I was all over the place. Like, I was trying to do this all, using my head, trying to figure out some method. It didn't dawn on me what I could do is just use the optimizer to do this. So what I ended up doing was I only pasted in the top 20 of the leaderboard, and then I put in all of the criteria here that would follow the bucket system logic. So if, you know, if we had something greater than 1 or 1 or greater in the minimum projection, that is what I would reflect in the minimum bucket here. And same applies for the maximum bucket. So I loaded in the optimal lineup right away. So what we can do right now is, here's how the optimizer works. It will tell me what it chose in this column here. What I want to do is compare it to this bucket. And I mean, I'm sure some of you guys already see some discrepancies. So when it comes to this last year bucket, if we were following the logic that I would have provided you guys in the strategy video, it would have said you wanted 2 last year ones. Well, in the optimal lineup, there was only 1. So right away, it doesn't work out. You know, you can't follow the buckets and get to the optimal lineup, not based off the projections I gave you. So we look at last year ones. The projection was actually 2.37 to 396, or 3.96, I should say. And again, in this column, we round down, so 2.37 becomes 2. And then in this bucket, we round up, 3.96 goes to 4. You're only going up 4 points. It's a very volume-driven bucket and has a low success rate, but a high frequency rate, meaning every single year we usually see one inside the top 10, at least one. That's what the frequency rate means. Success rate is, of all the golfers, how many of them show up inside the top 10? Well, that number is really low because this is usually a volume-driven bucket, and we don't have that many top 10 finishes in it. But you can still project that we're going to get a bunch of top 10 finishes. So that's why we have 2 in here. But if we go and we just take a look at everything, because this 2 isn't that big of a deal. We can probably still build a lineup. And now that we can't build the optimal based off this, we want to see if we can beat the GPP lineup. And you can see the total points will be right here. What we want to beat, I can't think of off the top of my head. We want to beat 656.5. Let's just say we want 657 or better. So again, if you want to like compare what the bucket or the optimizer chose versus the buckets I have, you can see some other discrepancies in here that just didn't work out. Like course history ones didn't work out. Everything else did there. All the last week buckets did well. Actually, the last year buckets, except for last year one. Okay, yeah, that didn't do well. Recent form buckets, there was some that didn't do well either, like the recent form 2s, that wasn't good. Recent form 4s were not good. Those were 2 strikeouts, so just unfortunate. All of the strokes gained buckets, though, with the projections, those worked out really well. You had one from every single one except for the no strokes gained bucket, which is strokes gained bucket 6. So these worked out well, as did the salaries. 10, 9, and 2 7s. That's what I was saying in the strategy video, what you wanted. That actually ended up working out well. So what I'm going to do, we're going to use the bucket system here. This was not generated based off of what I have currently in here. Let's see if we can beat 657. All I'm going to do is run optimize. And it broke. So that means who I have locked in here with Tom Hoagie isn't going to work out with the strict buckets that I have. So if we take Hoagie out, we don't even come close. Like we start with Cantlay, which is one of the golfers I would want to start with. And Fitzpatrick is great, you know, going with him. And the rest of them I actually don't mind either, like JJ Spawn, Troy Merritt, and Bo Hosler. Like those aren't terrible, but 604, not even close to winning. So if I put in Tom Hoagie, I wonder where the breakdown is. So it actually tries to pick Cantlay. What if we just go ahead and lock in Spieth? And now it won't because of... So, you know, some of these are probably just a little too strict. is my guess. So I'm going to switch everything to ones, even the 7K down here, and see if it will run again. We still don't get it. So it's more probably on our maximums. So if I choose everything at 0, I'm going to keep those strokes gained buckets down there at 0 because we know. Just using the max buckets, we do create a lineup that beats it. It does consist of 5 golfers inside the top 10 and then Nick Taylor. And it would be a 10, 9, 8, 7, 7, 7, which would have been the road that I would have built lineups. I think a little bit it's that last year 1 bucket that really didn't work out for one of them. Course History 4, I think, was another one that I can't remember off the top of my head. No, that wouldn't be one. Either way, it was unfortunate with the minimums that we had that we weren't going to get there. But, you know, you take the minimums off and you max cap everything. Actually, we do have the strokes gain stats in. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm trying to figure out like what was in here before. I should have probably just saved the numbers somewhere. I forgot to do that. So I also don't think Nick Taylor didn't finish inside the top 10, so that really wouldn't have worked with the sweet spot process. This week we just couldn't do it with all the projections as they were, like using those as our conditionals. So I don't know. Hopefully, if you did get the optimizer, you were able to work around it, try to figure out the right plays. And let me take these 2 out and see if it still spits these guys out. I hope so. They should. Yeah, it does. Okay. I'll have to play around with it. I mean, a lot of the projections changed when like Daniel Berger dropped out. Who was the other 10K that dropped out? I cannot remember off to save the life of me. Doesn't matter. With those guys dropping out, it did change the buckets a little bit. And unfortunately, I hadn't, when I was creating lineups, I hadn't updated what these were for me based off of Daniel Berger dropping out because he did that late. It just didn't turn out that great. So I made some money back. I could have made almost all of my money back if Beau Hossler makes his putt. Even if he pars it, as long as he doesn't make bogey or worse, I was going to make $25 extra. So unfortunately, that did not happen. But so be it. Like, that's fantasy golf sometimes. We're moving on to the next week. So tomorrow I will have a preview video out, or maybe later today, depending on when you guys watch this. I'll have a preview video out for the Waste Management Phoenix Open. That tournament should be a little easier. We're getting away from the 3-course or just multiple course rotations. It's going to be a little bit simpler. So hopefully the bucket system will be on point. This was the worst week of the bucket system, although we were able to project the correct amount of 10K golfers inside the top 10. You wanted one, but unfortunately that just wasn't enough. So next week we'll get it. Thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.